It was 8:30 in the morning, and Josh and I had just entered Zion National Park. It was the first of 5 national parks we would be visiting within the next 5 days. We entered on the east side of the park after spending the night indoors. Out of the 12 days we spent traveling in Wyoming and Utah, this was the only night we didn't camp. We were refreshed and ready for a day of exploration. Only shuttles are permitted on the Zion Canyon Scenic Drive. Luckily, the family eating dinner next to us at Antelope Island just visited and let us know we need to get tickets ahead of time. We got off at the first stop to hike the Emerald Pools Trail. Next, we hiked up West Rim Trail.
That bus will be.
It was a warm day. The switchbacks had us sweltering in the sun. Refrigerator Canyon provided some much-needed shade. After yet another series of steep switchbacks, we made it to Scout Lookout. The views were stunning, but the trail up to Angel's Landing was closed because of COVID. Then, back down the switchbacks we went, undoing our previous hour's efforts as we descended to the trailhead.
On your phone or?
I don't need to pull down before you can slash.
Rip to whoever phone this was.
Neither of us have spent much time recreating in this kind of canyon-filled desert terrain, so concerns about weather hazards had us feeling a little out of our element.
Is that rain in the distance we see? You gotta watch out for flash flooding.
The vaguely threatening clouds were downstream, and in the opposite direction of our next destination, the Narrows, so we decided to continue on as planned. Walking in the river was fun for a couple of wet-foot portagers like Josh and I, but it was later in the day and I was feeling a little uneasy, so we turned around after passing a few bends.
This is gonna work.
Yay.
Yeah, it'll work.
Dinner was gourmet, and we had a view to match. Bryce Canyon National Park was next on our route.
Oh.
Here was our first glimpse at the famed hoodoos. We found out that Bryce actually contains the largest collection of hoodoos in the world. We enjoyed scenic overlooks galore, but we're ready for a closer look.
Is that the one we're doing?
We traded our bird's eye view for a perspective more similar to that of a mouse in a maze.
So cool.
This narrow section of the hike is called Wall Street. Towards the end of it, there are a few strikingly tall Douglas firs growing in a seemingly unlikely place.
Look at that one.
These three rock formations reminded me of me and my sisters. Part of the fun of this canyon is looking at all the formations that weathering and erosion has cracked and chiseled into bizarre shapes that, with a little imagination, can resemble people, items, and creatures. The distinct central hoodoo here is called Thor's hammer.
Down that?
Yeah.
There's no way that's even possible.
I'm sure it is.
Well, possible is one thing.
You know I like that song.
Here we are at the end of the Queen's Garden Trail, where a hoodoo here resembles a statue of Queen Victoria. This is the Mossy Cave Trail.
Cute. A desert stream.
And here's the Mossy Cave.
That's a mossy cave. That's a mossy cave.
She dripping and dropping.
Before heading back to the car, we made a side trip to view a nice waterfall. Then we drove all the way down the scenic Southern Drive to get to Rainbow Point, where we would be able to hike down to our campsite at Yovimpa Pass. We whipped up some rice and beans for dinner. Josh did a good job draining the bean juice.
That's probably enough. Right? Maybe a little more.
We woke up early the next morning so we could break camp, hike back to the car, then drive to Sunrise Point to catch the sunrise. We returned the bear canister we were able to borrow for free, then hit the road. After a bit of a drive, we made it to Capitol Reef National Park.
And bought the cage. These are cool. They're very, very cool.
This strenuous hike would take us up to Cassidy Arch. There it is in the distance.
I got through literally the most of the childhood section.
Aha! Wow. Oh, what? How did they get down there?
I was reacting to spotting a few climbers below the arch.
Be silently moved.
Capitol Reef has quite a few petroglyphs all over the park.
I don't know what the original reference for that one is.
We accomplished all the sightseeing we deemed safe, given the nearby thunder. We had retreated from our attempt at viewing the Hickman Natural Bridge and decided not to go down the Grand Wash Trail or into any slot canyons. We were still determined to camp in the backcountry that night, and the backcountry camping permits are even free at Capitol Reef. A park ranger at the visitor center helped us pick a trail that she thought would be the safest for the night, if perchance the weather got worse. The lower Pleasant Creek route runs through a wide canyon, so in the unlikely chance that a flash flood did occur, we would be much less likely to get trapped.
Oh, fresh track.
To follow the route, we hiked along the footpath running parallel to the creek. The footpaths are unmaintained, so we had to use a bit of route finding in an attempt to stay on the main trail. It would have been hard to get lost though, since we were basically just following the creek as far down as we wanted. Unlike the other parks we had visited, there were no permanent backcountry sites that we were required to stay at. It was up to us to find a spot that was suitable and minimized impact. We had to cross the creek many times to stay on the already established footpath, and because sometimes the creek would run right up along the canyon wall, we'd be forced to move to the other side. I think Josh was successful in finding the best spots to hop across to not get his feet wet. I was out of the game from the start, because at the very first crossing, a rock moved when I wasn't expecting, dampening my foot. I had been wondering why this park was called Capitol Reef, and found out it's because the whitish, dome-shaped rock formations reminded people of the U.S. Capitol, also white and topped with a dome. Reefs, the kind you find in an ocean, inspired the second part of the name. Ocean reefs are obstacles for sailors, just as the 87-mile-long ridge that runs through the park was an obstacle for travelers. We were lucky to spot a family of desert bighorn sheep. We finally reached what we presumed to be the Slick Rock Chute listed on the map. At this point, we were decently hungry and tired, and not too sure how soon we would find a safe, low-impact spot for setting up our tents. This backcountry trail to me felt like the most remote thing we had done yet, which I was thoroughly enjoying, but mountain lions were on the mind. Reading the topo lines on the map, it looked like just past this chute, the canyon would open up significantly. This was correct, and we found ourselves a decent-looking spot. The next morning, we did make it up to see the Hickman Natural Bridge, then started driving towards Canyonlands National Park, until we realized it would actually be closer to go to Arches first. Plus, there didn't seem to be quite as much to do at Arches, so we figured with a later start, it would be better to spend the rest of the day there.
Is it Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Park is 5 hours.
Nice. I'm gonna be here all night, baby.
Here we are on a hike up to the Delicate Arch.
Cheers.
We concluded our visit cooking some quinoa at a picnic area. It was day 5 and we had one final park to visit. We kicked off our visit to Canyonlands with the hike to Mesa Arch.
Wow. This looks suspicious. Maybe it was both. I see some steps.
One world's collide.
There it is. The Aztec butt.
That's a big butt.
Oh, it's a rabbit.
So cute.
Look at his little paws.
Granaries were used for storage by the ancestral Puebloans.
Wow, that is awesome.
Wow.
This hike takes us up the formation known as Whale Rock and was one of my favorites. Imagine running up the back of a ginormous whale. Here we are atop the head of the beached whale.
Wowzers.
We hiked to view the upheaval dome, maybe formed from a salt dome, or maybe from a meteorite. We check out the Green River overlook and hike out to see Murphy's Point. We were feeling pretty satisfied with all we had seen here at the Island in the Sky district, so we took in one last view of the canyon and then would be driving just over 2 hours to get to the Needles district of Canyonlands.
Wowzers. Now that is a canyon.
Amen to that.
Here's my cute little car.
Now at the Needles, Cave Spring Trail brought us by what used to be a campsite used by cowboys.
Cowboy camp. Josh, say yeehaw. Yeehaw! I like sleep, under it, not in, just like in my sleeping bag.
Love those.
Cute. Dun, 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 dun. Whoa, this one's wobbly. Good job, Josh. And leap.
Oh, hi, lizard.
We drove out to a spot where a park ranger told us we could get a good view of the Needles.
Then they go home. They leave like that. They were clearly gagged.
Potholes everywhere. Don't step in it. That's the ecosystem. Oh! You're gonna ruin the ecosystem of the pothole. Maybe some shrimp will be
Just
really
immediately,
bored.
just flying in the sky.
Like shrimp.
Yeah, the apocalypse happened and the buildings are all worn down.
And they just turned to stone.
We were likening the distant spires of the Needles to a cityscape of abandoned buildings in ruin.
Alright, let's get hiking.
I'm scared. I want to just empty this Nalgene too.
I don't even have water.
Sounds like we're ready.
bet you there's water down there.
That's my house. That cave, those trees.
This would be our final overlook before we'd cook dinner and then exit the park. This was the perfect spot for some final moments of reflection as we spent our last few moments of our Utah National Park adventure. It was even complete with a perfectly placed sign. The sign reads, "You have come to the end of the road." Here at the end of the road, we encourage you to step into the wilderness and explore what it means to you. Many thoughts on the mind as we prepared dinner in the early evening. Ants would crawl on our feet if we left them on the ground, hence the squatting. We made one unexpected stop after leaving the park. This is Newspaper Rock. We were interested by a sign we saw on the side of the road, and we were so glad we stopped. After leaving Utah, we spent time in Missouri with our friend Hunter, and I took a break from using my camera. We spent the night in Cincinnati, and the next day squeezed in a hike at Cuyahoga Valley National Park on the way to Josh's home. What an incredible trip we had been on. We visited 7 national parks, a national recreation area, a national forest, and 2 state parks. That's a lot of nature, but each place felt distinct. The ingredients were mostly the same. A lot of walking, canyons and cliffs, lakes and rivers, waterfalls and arches, but each place seemed to be dominated by one of those features, which influenced how the place was perceived and experienced. Playing the part of the tourist, viewing the can't-miss, most popular attractions was great, and we got to see some pretty incredible works of nature. But for me, the parts I cherished the most were getting away from the crowds, hiking to places most visitors don't typically go. In the backcountry, I felt I had a more meaningful experience, finishing with a deeper understanding of where I was. Even with so much uncertainty throughout, this trip could not have gone much better. I got to see so much. I had a great friend along with me and spent day after day outdoors, exploring. For me, it doesn't get much better than that.